Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brada Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brada Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brada Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brada Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Kunda Bihari Radha Kunda Bihari Kunda Bihari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Prabhupada His Divine Grace, Grace of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Seva Host Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srimad Hari Gora Bhaktivaibhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gora Premananda Glories to the Assembly All glories to the Assembly All glories to the Assembly All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Guru Now we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, chapter 4, text 64. 9-4-64. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 How do you, oh, is it, Naham Atmanam Ashase Mat Bhaktai Sadhubi Vina Shriyam Chat Adyantikim Brahman Yesham Gatihi Aham Para Naham Atmanam Ashase Mat Bhaktai bhaktai sadhubhir vina Shriyam chantyanti kim brahman Yesham gati aham para Naham atmanam ashase Mad bhaktaya sadhubhir vina Shriyam chantyanti kim brahman Yesham gati aham para
Naham atmanam ashase Mad bhaktai sadhubhir vina Shriyam chatyanti kim brahman Yesham gatir aham para
The ladies. Na, not, aham, I, atmanam, transcendental bliss, ashase, desire, mat bhaktai, with my devotees, sadhubi, with the saintly persons, vina, without them, shriyam, all my six opulences, sha, also, adyantikim, the supreme, brahman, O brahmana, Yesham, of whom, Gatihi, destination, Aham, I am, Para, the ultimate. Translation. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivaibhava, Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient, but to enjoy His transcendental bliss, He requires the cooperation of His devotees. In Vrindavan, for example, although Lord Krishna is full in Himself, He wants the cooperation of His devotees, like the cowherd boys and the gopis, to increase His transcendental bliss. Such pure devotees who can increase the pleasure potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are certainly most dear to Him, Not only does the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoy the company of his devotees, but because he is unlimited, he wants to increase his devotees unlimitedly. Thus, he descends to the material world to induce the non-devotees and rebellious living entities to return home back to Godhead. He requests them to surrender unto him because, unlimited as he is, he wants to increase his devotees unlimitedly. The Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to increase the number of pure devotees of the Supreme Lord more and more. It is certain that a devotee who helps in this endeavor to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes indirectly a controller of the Supreme Lord. Although the Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, he does not feel transcendental bliss without his devotees. An example that may be cited in this regard is that if a very rich man does not have sons in a family, he does not feel happiness. Indeed, sometimes a rich man adopts a son to complete his happiness. The science of transcendental bliss is known to the pure devotee. Therefore, the pure devotee is always engaged in increasing the transcendental happiness of the Lord. Nama Om Vishwabadaya Krishna Veshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivaibhava Swami iti Name Namaste Saraswati Devi Gora Vajrashani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashtajadi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gora Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. One more time the verse. Naham Atmanam Ashase Mat Bhakti Sadhubhya Vina Shriyam Shadyanti Kim Brahman Yesham Gati Aham Para. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. Yes, sometimes we might feel that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited and he expands himself into innumerable incarnations, expansions, etc., which includes also the innumerable living entities, that sometimes we might feel, then what is my position? I'm so insignificant, of course, always in relation to the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no need to feel depressed when we hear that we are small, insignificant. Normally, if you tell a person you are small, you're insignificant, you just feel disappointed. But the philosophical statement is that the minute position, in that sense, insignificant, small, tiny, Srila Prabhupada also used the word tiny, the tiny living entity, it is always in comparison to the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if something is unlimited, and then you call it, in comparison, small, still it has some significance. So we might feel like this, The Supreme Lord is being served by innumerable living entities, devotees in the spiritual world. They're innumerable. Then whether I surrender or not, what difference does it make? Does Lord Krishna even recognize that I'm existing? We might feel like this. But then again, we have to remember that the Supreme Lord is unlimited. Meaning that His consciousness is so expansive that like a shadow, there's one description in one purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, it is like a shadow. Like a shadow, He follows all the living entities in this material world, and of course we know as Paramatma, residing within the heart of each and every living entity in the entire material creation, is fully aware of each and every living entity's condition, their desires, their activities, since time immemorial. That is difficult to understand. But that faith the devotee must have, that although there are innumerable living beings, still Lord Krishna maintains a perfect and complete reciprocal relationship with each and every living entity. So these feelings we might in this material world sometimes harbor and have, that feeling far away from Krishna. Does Krishna even know me? That feeling of being separate, that's only generated by the illusory energy of Krishna. In fact, the living entity then thinks that the entire material creation is a separate existence from the Lord. In one sense, yes, it is. But in another sense, no. It is still the Supreme Lord's energy. And He pervades the entire material creation. But being influenced by the illusory energy of the Lord, one feels this way, separate. It is a separate existence, separate reality. Perhaps even the spiritual world might be something faint, something we cannot really comprehend, understand, far, far away. But it's exactly the opposite. And this material creation is only a temporary, illusory manifestation. Vibhu, that Sanskrit word is being used. The Supreme Lord is being described as Vibhu, meaning that He is full of these six opulences. Srila Prabhupada also explained, referred to that in the purport. Vibhu refers to the six opulences of the Supreme Lord. They are unlimited. And the living entity is being described as Anu. Very, very small, tiny, again in comparison to Lord Krishna. We have to remember that these terms of limitation are given in comparison with Vibhu, the Vibhu aspect of the Lord. His limited, or rather the Supreme Lord's limitless nature cannot even be understood by exalted living entities like Lord Brahma. Even he cannot understand the opulences of the Lord. He gives us this one beautiful verse. Jananta eva janantu kim bahuktina me prabhu manaso vapaso vacho vaibhavam tava gochara. In this verse, Lord Brahma explains Jananta, that persons who think that they are aware of the unlimited potency of the Lord, the Janantu, let them think in this way. But as far as I'm concerned, Lord Brahma prays in this verse, as far as I'm concerned, I cannot understand whether with my words, what is that, the manaso with my mind, apuso with my senses, body, or vacha with my words, I cannot describe, I cannot understand the unlimited opulences of the Supreme Lord. Then what to speak of us? Lord Krishna has the completeness and perfection to reciprocate with each and every living entity, despite their being innumerable, unlimited in number. This is one of the realizations which strikes us sometimes. This is why Rupa Goswami in the Bhaktivaibhava Sindhu, he gives that opening verse, Akhila Rasamrita Murti, that beautiful verse describing how Lord Krishna in a perfect way reciprocates with his devotees. Of course, a few examples are given in that verse, but we can also take it in this way, that he reciprocates in a perfect way with each and every living entity. The verse can be taken in this way. Achintya, again that word, is being used often. Achintya means inconceivable. And again, Rupa Goswami, he explains, unless one accepts the Achintya Shakti, the inconceivable potency of the Lord, one will not be able to understand him. One has to accept that his opulences, his energies, the Lord's consciousness, intelligence, everything related, connected to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, is inconceivable. Achintya. He also states that Achintya, it is very important for Vaishnavas. Their understanding of the Supreme Lord is based on this understanding, concept that he is inconceivable. Of course, to some extent we can understand, we can study, we learn, we can memorize, but as far as understanding is concerned, that is simply remains Achintya. In the Lagu Bhagavatamrita, there's one nice example given, that we even find inconceivable potencies in the ordinary things in this world. The example is given of mantras. They also have inconceivable potency. Just now, Roma Padmaj, he came across one article related to modern neuroscience. And this article explains that one develops a very, very advanced level of consciousness, intelligence, progress intelligence, just by chanting Sanskrit mantras. They discovered it. Just by chanting Sanskrit mantras. So mantras, they also contain inconceivable potencies. Mantras and gems, valuable stones, they also possess inconceivable potency. Herbs also, they possess inconceivable potencies. Now why not the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It's certainly a nice argument. Certainly he possesses inconceivable potencies. Now we have a nice statement by Lord Krishna. I'm called Atmarama because I enjoy. I do not desire that enjoyment without the devotees. More than my own bliss, I desire the bliss of my devotees. Though both of us have spiritual forms, but the major forms of the spiritual function called mercy exists in the bhakta, within the devotees. Since it is the essence of the Chit Shakti, gives bliss even to my Swarupa, Krishna explains, to my transcendental form, and attracts my Swarupa, my form. I eternally possess my 6 great qualities, but without the devotees, I consider these to be barren, unproductive. This is how Krishna thinks. So there's a hope for us. There's some hope for us that Krishna truly desires the company of his devotees. And of course we have to become devotees. That's the condition. This is our standing prayer, that one day we might become devotees, pure devotees of Lord Krishna. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atmarama, self-satisfied. Because sometimes I thought Atmarama means Lord Krishna, he is self-satisfied. He doesn't even need his devotees. But these statements by Krishna himself clarifies this point. Atmarama is self-satisfied, which means he is not reciprocating. He doesn't see the need to reciprocate with non-devotees, those who are not surrendered to Krishna. In that sense, he's Atmarama. But still, he always desires the association of his devotees. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Also a nice point. These impersonalists, they desire to merge into the effulgence of the Lord, but the devotees also, they desire to merge, but into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. They go further. Here we have another nice verse spoken by Sanat Kumara of the 4 Kumaras in the 4th canto. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like ornamental decorations on the ears of devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Beautiful verse. These are the decorative ornaments, like earrings, on the Vaishnava devotee, meaning always being absorbed in hearing, describing, remembering the qualities and pastimes of Lord Krishna. That's a symptom of advanced devotees. They only want to talk about Krishna. They have no other interest. This is not narrow-mindedness. The non-devotees, they think when you Hare Krishnas, you're narrow-minded. You only talk about Krishna, nothing else. Well, what can we do? Krishna is everything. There's nothing else to talk about. But they haven't realized it. And therefore they think that we are narrow-minded. But nobody can be more broad-minded than the devotee. Because he knows Krishna is everything, which is a fact. This is our challenge. Krishna is everything. That's the challenge. Try to disprove it. If they cannot disprove it, our argument stands. We are not narrow-minded. We are the most broad-minded. We can increase our propensity for devotional service by hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam from realized souls. The more we hear from realized souls, the more we make advancement in our devotional life. These are all quotations from Srimad Bhagavatam. The more we advance in devotional life, the more we become detached from the material world. The more we become detached from the material world, as advised by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more we increase in attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now at the end I would like to share with you from the Jaiva Dharma a very interesting conversation between Raghunath Das Babaji and Rajanath. Rajanath, he is inquiring from Raghunath Das Babaji. I agree that the sufferings of the conditioned jivas are ultimately beneficial. This is what he explained before, surprisingly. But presently, it is very painful. Was it not within the means of the omnipotent Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to change this torturous path of material existence into an easier one? Why we have to undergo such a hardship to realize something? That we should surrender to Krishna. No, why? That Krishna is all powerful, he could make it a little more easy for us. That's the argument. Raghunath Das Babaji replies, the Leelas of Sri Krishna are unlimited and variegated. Material existence for the conditioned souls is another of his many unique activities. When the Supreme Lord willfully engages in a kaleidoscope of pastimes, why should it be unusual for him to enact this particular pastime? If the principle of variegated leelas is kept intact, not a single type of leela can be rejected. Wow, that's an amazing point. Of course, for us it is not a leela. We suffer, but Krishna does not suffer. For him, it is a leela, a dream. In his dream, in his sleep, slumber, yoga nidra, he creates this leela. Leela means for enjoyment. The Lord is enjoying whatever he does, he enjoys. So it is a leela in that sense. And just like any other leela of the Lord, we cannot reject it. If the principle of variegated leelas is kept, we read this, whatever the leela, the participants assisting the Lord may have to accept many hardships and pain. That's part of it. It cannot be rejected. It must have a purpose. To whatever extent, it must have a purpose. All the upakarana, meaning the participants, the paraphernalia, are fully under the control of the Purusha, and they are the working tools of the Supreme Creator. In fully surrendering oneself to the sweet will of the Lord, it is only natural that one may have to accept difficulties also. If finally this material hardship turns into an auspicious state that is far from miserable, then why ultimately should one call it adversity? And this is so many verses also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is how a devotee, a Vaishnava, feels. That all the sufferings in this material world is nothing but an opportunity to surrender more to Krishna. So ultimately, what is there to lament? Yes, suffering is always painful, but if that suffering furthers my surrender to Krishna, then such a suffering is welcome. Queen Kunti. also she prays. Should not be imitated. We have difficulties enough. We should not pray for more difficulties. But this is how she prays. So what an exalted soul, Queen Kunti. Because she knew that all these difficulties that Pandavas experienced, it was due to... the point is, by these difficulties, they received the darshan of the Lord. And as soon as all these difficulties disappeared, the Lord Krishna also disappeared. He didn't see the need to stay longer. And this is why she prayed, let all these difficulties come again, because then again Lord Krishna will come and give his association to protect his devotees. Instead of serving the Lord in his transcendental pastimes, he embraces Maya, who gives him only acute harassment, the living entity. If anyone is to blame for this dilemma, it is the jiva, and definitely not Krishna. Rajana. If the jiva were not allocated his share of free will, would anything have gone amiss? Sri Krishna's omniscient, so he knew that the jiva would have to suffer if given free will. Considering this case, is Sri Krishna not to be made responsible for the misery of the jiva? It's a very nice argument. The Krishna knows if I allocate the freedom of choice, free will to the living, it might misuse it, and then it has to suffer, therefore Krishna is responsible. Raghunadas Babaji replies, Svatantratam, Svatantratam means freedom of choice, free will. Svatantratam is indeed the rarest of gems. If the jiva were not awarded free will, he would simply be reduced to inert, insignificant matter. That's the difference between the jiva and matter. Matter does not possess freedom of choice. Otherwise, the seat would definitely arrange that I will not be able to sit on it. The seat would have freedom of choice. But not possible, therefore I can nicely take my seat. The jiva is part and parcel of Chit Vastu, the absolute transcendence. Therefore, he possesses the same qualities as the absolute whole, but in minute measure. Supreme independence is the intrinsic characteristics of the ultimate spiritual substance, Sri Krishna. And to separate the substance from its essential characteristics is of course not possible. Therefore, free will is certainly present in the nature of the jiva, but proportionate to his infinitesimal size. The intrinsic constitutional presence of free will has elevated the jiva to a much higher status than matter, and has made him its lord and master in the material sense. It has also favored him with the possibility of becoming the dearmost servitor of Lord Krishna. Yet, when the same jiva misuses his innate free choice and thus becomes engrossed in material activities, the merciful Sri Krishna is stricken by compassion and concerned about the bad fortune of the jiva. Lamenting, the Lord shadows the movement of the jiva, he also shadows the movement of the jiva, planning means to save him. So then he explains further, then he comes to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation. How merciful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, giving the example how a devotee should practice Krishna consciousness, how he should behave, as a Vaishnava, everything. Krishna does it himself. He gives a perfect example. Now how the jiva can get out of this illusory concept of being the enjoyer, the controller, just loitering in the darkness of material existence since time immemorial. Lord Krishna is so merciful in his form as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he gives that process. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore we always have to place in the forefront of all our activities this chanting of Hare Krishna. Gora Premanande Hare. I don't know whether we have time for comments, questions. What is the schedule? Because I don't want to interfere with the other seminars.
You definitely have time. You definitely have time.
Yes.
9 is break.
Maybe a couple of comments, questions. Maharajas, you would like to give some comment about some aspect, some point?
I find it very interesting because the unlimited Lord has unlimited compassion and wants the unlimited souls to come back to the spiritual world. So I think Srila Prabhupada exemplified that, in that in spite of all the difficulties he encountered, that he created a system called ISKCON and everything that he created in order to help not only those who are attracted to Krishna consciousness, but even to those who are not even attracted to Krishna consciousness. And he gave us a complete picture for the present, how to gradually bring people to Krishna consciousness and ultimately take shelter in the ISKCON movement, and also for those who have no attraction to the ISKCON movement in the future, how to bring them to a position where gradually they'll develop an attraction.
That already brings up so many thoughts related to preaching. That's our responsibility, to not step in between the Lord's plan and Srila Prabhupada's plan to benefit the living entities. Their plans are unlimited. We cannot step in between. So as preachers, we have to be extremely broad-minded. Of course, we should never compromise the principles of Krishna consciousness, but at the same time, we have to be extremely broad-minded to be able to reach as many conditioned souls as possible. I'm quite sure that our Satchidananda Maharaj he can elaborate on this point day and night. Maybe just a few words on this point, that we should not be careful not to limit our preaching activities, but at the same time not to compromise how to reach so many conditioned souls. And other organizations, they're way ahead of us. That's one thing I noticed. They're reaching so many people. How? That's not the point. I mean, you might argue in this way, but on the other hand, at least they're reaching people, So I was thinking the other day about this point. Yes, we can be very strict and non-compromising, but then if nobody is, getting in contact with Krishna consciousness, or just very limited, then what's the point? So we have to, anyway, I'm getting carried away.
First of all, thank you very, very much. I was really very, let me say, devotionally stimulated by this wonderful class where you showed something which a devotee needs to hear, that Krishna is caring for me. He's so unlimitedly, and even the way he has designed the world, and really very, very nice points. You have asked me to speak on creative ways to reach the conditioned souls without losing the essence of Krishna consciousness. Well, we call our efforts to reach the conditioned souls bridge preaching. A bridge is a means which comes to the other side of a river. You know, that's why we have a bridge. It wants to reach over the river and contact people on the other side. So we call our efforts bridge preaching. Whatever we do in the yoga world, whatever we do in the scientific world, whatever we do to reach out to all types of communities, the vegetarians, the vegan people, and so on. We call it a bridge preaching. That is, we bridge over to these people. Now, the analogy of a bridge carries a very important instruction, and that is, a bridge must lead somewhere. If you have a bridge, to the yoga community, but the bridge doesn't reach to Krishna consciousness, then this is violence,
It's springboard to fall down.
It's a springboard to fall into the river. If you reach out to the scientific community, but your bridge doesn't bring the scientific people to Krishna consciousness, what have you done for them? That you have misled them, really. So it's very important that those creative preaching programs make sure, really, that they lead the people to Krishna consciousness. Here I find a lot of improvement. Sometimes we hear, for instance, in preaching to the yoga community, devotees speak of Krishna as the divine presence, which is could be an impersonal denomination, and scientific preachers and preachers who talk about political to the politicians. They have to make sure that the bridge leads the other people to Krishna consciousness.
It would be interesting discussions, our senior devotees should have these discussions. Where's the borderline in bridge preaching? Where's the borderline? Where do we begin to compromise? Where not? It would be very important discussions. That we are always very clear, and that we are not compromising, but at the same time we are reaching out to as many people as possible. Yeah. You want to give a final comment?
I don't think there is a final comment.
So thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Bhaktivaibhava Maharaj ki
Jai.
Radhananda Maharaj ki jai. Sachinanda Maharaj ki jai. Go Premanande. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.